All right, so these are going to be my Week 18 NBA Power Rankings. Let's get started. Starting off here with our injuries. You guys can mostly look at this yourself. We have a lot of guys being back or being very close to being back after our extended break from the All-Star, so that's good. One thing to note is that Victor Wembanyama is now injured for the season due to a blood clot, so that's very disappointing. Hopefully he can come back healthy next year. Next up is our top performances. Again, you guys can literally just look at this yourself. I don't need to spend too much time talking about that, but moving on from there, we got the Washington Wizards here at number 30. They had a 1-3 weeks. They got 10-47. They finally got to double-digit wins, which is kind of depressing that it took this long. They beat the Brooklyn Nets, but they lost to the Pacers, the Bucks, and the Magic this week. Next up is going to be the Charlotte Hornets. They went 1-4. They're also going to drop one spot here. They lost to the Magic, the Nuggets, the Blazers, the Kings by 40, and then they did beat the Los Angeles Lakers their first game back from the All-Star break, so that's a good win. But other than that, they were pretty bad this week. Number 28 is going to be the New Orleans Pelicans. They went 2-2, so they do move up a couple of spots from number 30. They beat the Kings and the Spurs, and they also lost to the Kings and the Mavericks, and they did cut Javonte Green as well. So that, he's a solid piece for them that they ended up getting rid of. Next up is the Philadelphia 76ers. So they're really bad right now. They're still, I think, in the play-in as it stands right now in the Eastern Conference, but they've lost 8 straight games, but 0-5 this week. Very, very bad team, honestly, in this league at the current moment, right? They lost to the Raptors, the Nets twice, the Bulls, and the Celtics. So they only played really one good team this week, and they still couldn't get a single win. They did sign Lonnie Walker, so maybe he can be a good piece for them off the bench, but I don't think Lonnie Walker is really going to save this team this year. Next up is the Chicago Bulls at 26. They went 1-4 this week. Lost to the Pistons twice, lost to the Knicks, and lost to the Suns. Their only win was against the Philadelphia 76ers by 30 points. But like I already said, the Sixers kind of suck. Then we got the Jazz at number 25. They went 2-3, so they're going to move up 2 spots here. They did beat the Los Angeles Lakers before the All-Star break, and they beat the Houston Rockets coming out of the All-Star break. So those are 2 good wins, and they lost to the Thunder, the Clippers, and the Blazers, who, Thunder and Clippers, those are 2 very good losses here for this Jazz team. So honestly, really solid week for them. Next up is the Brooklyn Nets at 2-2. They'll find themselves moving up just 1 spot here. They beat the Sixers. They beat the Sixers actually twice this week, so that's good for them, I guess. And they lost to the Cavs and the Wizards. Next up is going to be the Toronto Raptors at number 23. They went 2-2 this week. For the Raptors, they beat the Sixers as well, and they beat the Phoenix Suns, and they lost to good teams in the Cavs and the Heat. Next is the Portland Trail Blazers. They went 2-2 as well. A lot of teams going 2-2, that we're seeing right now. Blazers played the Nuggets and Lakers and lost both of those, but then they beat the Hornets and the Jazz. So they lost to 2 good teams, and they beat 2, pretty bad teams. Also, DeAndre Ayton's going to be injured for a couple of weeks, so that's obviously not very good for the Blazers. Number 21 is going to be the San Antonio Spurs. So they actually dropped 10 spots. A lot of that was because I had them up pretty high going into the All-Star break, because I loved the addition of De'Aaron Fox to this team. But now with losing Victor Wembanyama, they pretty much have no chance to make a playoff spot right now. So certainly dropped quite a bit there. But they went 1-3 this week. Trying to find their stuff here. They lost to the Celtics, the Pistons, and the Pelicans, and then beat the Phoenix Suns. Next up is the Miami Heat at number 20. They went 1-4 this week. Certainly not ideal, obviously, for them, but still really not a bad week. They played some good teams here. This week they played the Thunder, the Mavs, the Bucks, and the Hawks, who they lost to, and then they beat the Toronto Raptors. Number 19, the Atlanta Hawks. They went 1-3 this week. They're going to jump up 1 spot just because they beat the Miami Heat, so I do move them ahead of them there. But they lost to the Knicks, the Magic, and the Pistons as well. Number 18 is the Phoenix Suns. They went 1-4, so they're going to drop here a couple of spots. They lost to the Grizzlies, the Rockets, the Spurs, and the Raptors, and their only win was against the Chicago Bulls. So they did play 2 good teams and lost, but you would have liked to see them beat the Raptors and the Spurs, especially because the Suns are fighting to even make a play-in spot right now, so those are some games that they definitely need to win. Number 17, Sacramento Kings. They went 2-2. They also will be dropping a couple of spots here, but not a bad week for them by any means. They beat the Pelicans and the Hornets, but they also lost to the Pelicans once, and they lost to the Warriors. They did sign Markelle Fultz too, so hopefully he can be a good piece for them. I'm not really sure why it took him this long to be signed to a team, but I am glad that he's on a roster again. Number 16, Orlando Magic. They went 3-1. They're going to jump up 6 spots. They had a pretty good week here. Beat the Hornets, the Hawks, and the Wizards. So, none of those teams are necessarily that good, but they did get good wins against them. And they only lost by 1 point to the Grizzlies as their only loss of the week. Number 15 is going to be the Los Angeles Clippers. They went 2-3, so they're going to drop 1 spot here. They did play some solid teams, so I'm not really too upset about them. Losing. They lost to the Pacers, the Pistons, and the Bucks, and they beat the Jazz and the Grizzlies. Next up, you got the Dallas Mavericks with a 3-1 week, so they're going to move up a few spots. They did pretty good here. This week, they beat the Warriors, the Heat, and the Pelicans, and they lost to the Golden State Warriors as well. Number 13 is the Indiana Pacers. They're going to stay the exact same spot they just were at. They went 3-2, lost to some good teams though. In the Knicks and the Nuggets, and then they beat the Wizards, Grizzlies, and Clippers. Number 12 is going to be the Detroit Pistons. Going to jump up 6 spots. They went 5-0 this week. They won 7 straight games. Looking really good right now. They've actually elevated themselves, I believe, to the 6th seed, right? I believe they're outside of the play-in right now, on the good side. So that's certainly good progress here for the Pistons. They beat the Bulls twice, the Spurs, the Hawks, and the Clippers this week. Number 11 is going to be the Memphis Grizzlies. They're going to drop 5 spots at a 2-3 week. Kind of disappointing here. Certainly, they were number 1 just a few weeks ago in my rankings, and then they've kind of gone pretty much downhill ever since then. But this week, they played the Suns. They beat the Suns and the Magic, but they lost to the Clippers, the Pacers, and the Cavs. So they did play a lot of good teams here, but I do have to drop a few spots. Number 10 is going to be the Houston Rockets. They went 2-2. They're going to drop 2 spots here. Not a bad week. Again, they played some good teams. The Suns and the Timberwolves that they beat. They lost to the Warriors, but they also lost to the Utah Jazz, which isn't very good. But getting Jabari Smith back to this team is definitely going to help them out quite a bit, in my opinion. Number 9, Golden State Warriors went up 1 spot after having a 3-1 week of their own. They only lost to the Dallas Mavericks by 4. But then they went and beat the Rockets, the Kings, and they beat the Mavericks the second time they played them. Number 8 is going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're going to jump up 1 spot, even though they went 2-3 this week. So they played the Thunder 3 times this week, and they beat them twice and lost to them once. So that's why they're going to move up, even though they did, even though they did have a negative record. It's because they played the Thunder 3 times and they beat them twice, which that's a really good team in my opinion. And they also lost to the Bucks and the Rockets, who are really good teams as well. So no bad wins and no bad losses and 2 great wins for them this week. Number 7 is going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. They move up 5 spots after having a 4-0 week of their own. They've been really good as of late. Beat the Timberwolves, Clippers, Heat, and Wizards, but they also lost Bobby Portis to suspension for about 25 games, which is pretty much going to put him out until the playoffs. So they're going to have to go the rest of the regular season without him. Certainly not ideal. Number 6 is going to be the Los Angeles Lakers at 34-21. They had a 2-2 week here. They lost their first 2 against the Jazz and the Hornets. Then they, stepped back up later in the week after beating the Blazers and beating the Nuggets by 23 points. Luka Doncic looking like he's finding his groove, and hopefully he can ramp up his minutes. He hasn't been getting much more than 30 minutes a game. Hopefully he can ramp that up to 35. A regular rotation. But they looked really good against the Denver Nuggets, so that kind of helps them not fall too far down after having a disappointing week otherwise. Number 5, New York Knicks are going to jump up 2 spots, after a 3-2 week of their own. They lost to the Cavs and Celtics, who are, again, obviously really great teams. They have not beat the Cavs, Celtics, or Thunder this season with their 0-7 against all 3 of those teams. So they're going to have to figure out how to beat those dominant teams there if they want a chance to make a title contender, because they're probably going to have to face at least one of those teams in the playoffs. But they did beat the Pacers, the Hawks, and the Bulls this week. Number 4, Denver Nuggets went 3-1. They're going to stay at the exact same spot. Their only loss was against the Lakers, right? And they beat the Blazers, the Hornets, and the Pacers. Number 3 is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. They had a 3-2 week, and like I mentioned earlier, they played the Timberwolves 3 times, and they lost 2 of those 3 matchups. So their 2 losses there are against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who again are a really good team. So I don't really, fault the Thunder too much for that. But they did beat the Timberwolves once as well. They beat the Miami Heat, and they beat the Utah Jazz this week. Number 2 is going to be the Boston Celtics. They had it's actually a 3-0 week here. They actually had a 3-0 week this week. They're really good there. They beat the Spurs, Sixers, and the Knicks. At number 1 is going to be the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're going to take the number 1 spot from OKC because, they did go undefeated at 4-0 this week. They've won 7 straight games and have the best record in the league. Beat the Raptors, the Nets, the Knicks, and the Grizzlies. And they also signed Javonte Green after the Pelicans bought him out and, cut him. So that's going to be a really good addition, I think. A solid depth piece to this Cavaliers roster. Moving on from there, we have our award races. I'm going to try to just move out of the way here. But yeah, I'll talk about the leaders of them. You can look at the rest of them if you care. But MVP leading is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Stephon Castle's leading Rookie of the Year. Cade Cunningham's leading Most Improved Player. Peyton Pritchard is leading Sixth Man of the Year. Nikola Jokic is leading Clutch Player of the Year. Kenny Atkinson is leading Coach of the Year. And Evan Mobley is the leading Defensive Player of the Year. Now that Victor Wembanyama, is going to be ineligible. But that is going to be it for the video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to come back next week for an updated power rankings list, and goodbye.